This video is going to be a film study look at Nate Wiggins' performance in the Ravens' 35-34 win over the Cincinnati Bengals last Thursday night. I think he played quite well. Understand that we all are concerned about our defense as well. We should be. Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase lit us up again. They just continue to give us problems no matter where they line up Chase, no matter what they do with him. I'm not sure what the evaluation is of Wiggins' play, but after watching the defense now for pretty much 2 days in a row, I'm convinced he played quite well. Burrow did target him early. He clearly made it a point to go at him in certain situations. I don't know the catch percentage, to be honest with you. I don't have access to those stats. I don't look them up. I don't seek them out. I just kind of organically go by the film. It seems quite low to me. I'm not going to try to spit out stats on what the catch percentage was versus targets, but I don't think there was much return on Joe Burrow going at Nate Wiggins. Although he did get one defensive pass interference against Chase, who I will say this, does not like contact. Now, am I saying that we should just do press man against Jamar Chase? Well, number one, he's very strong. He's incredibly quick and agile, and he's got great moves. So there's problems there as well. When we're given opportunities to put hands on him, I think we should do so. Free releases so far through 2 games, 8 quarters plus against the Bengals have not worked. But getting back to Nate Wiggins, a couple of things that come through on the film. He's got the confidence to slow turn on verticals, meaning he trusts his speed to be able to get downfield on deeper shots and allow himself to try to handle intermediate routes in a more heavy fashion. Essentially, not turn and go so quickly with a vertical because he trusts his speed compared to the receiver he's matched up against. I will say this as well. Yoshivas, he seems to cause Wiggins the most issues. It's really interesting. He's a bigger, I would say slower a foot than some of the other receivers that the Bengals put out there against him. If you recall, Civis had that big catch deep down the right sideline against Wiggins on, I believe, a 3rd down in the Week 5 matchup. There's a bunch of plays here that I have queued up that I think show the quality of play that Nate Wiggins displayed on Thursday night. I do think that he's benefiting from the rotation of him and Marlon Humphrey, both getting possessions off at times. Now, it's not just a straight rotation because Marlon is also playing nickel DB, and I think he actually had 2 snaps at dime linebacker on Thursday once Kyle Hamilton went out. I think Stevens should be included in that. I think Stevens should get a possession off maybe each half. Am I saying he's getting tired? No, but he plays damn near every snap. And these other 2 guys, Marlon and Nate Wiggins, with some injury history obviously related to Marlon and perhaps some concerns about it with Nate Wiggins, those guys are getting possessions off. I think it's making them look good, making them be extremely fresh when they do get out on the field. Like I said, we have a bunch of plays queued up here. Try to spot shadow Wiggins on each one, but you pretty much know where he is. He's going to be the left outside corner. This is first quarter. I think we're playing quarter, half here. Going to be a quarterback hit by Oweh off the top side. Clean win against the left tackle. I think Oweh played quite well on Thursday night. And Jamar Chase is going to be breaking for an out route here, probably open if Oweh weren't there. And Burrow was able to get this thing off quickly. Also, the flat out into the flats. We've got issues. I think we're messing up the coverage to the boundary side flats at least 3 times in this game. I'm talking about Trenton Simpson and whoever else is possibly associated with that portion of the field. I have some concerns there, and moving forward, I have concerns about the Steelers and Chargers and others attacking us there by design because we messed those coverages up so much. And I'll talk about that a little bit later in the video, particularly the touchdown by Jamar Chase that could have tied the game. Still working in the first quarter. This is going to be cover 3. Again, Wiggins down to the bottom side of the field. It's going to be incomplete pass late, 2nd and 10. It's to Gesicki, and it's a really nice job by Darius Washington. But again, look at Wiggins. He has the speed and the confidence to match these verticals. I think this is Burton, who kind of gears down and gives a little bit of an outside fake here with the shoulders and then gets upfield against Wiggins. Wiggins doesn't seem pressed or worried at all about these situations with guys getting vertical on him. A little bit different mentality when it's Jamar Chase. Darius Washington is walking down to the flats post-snap. Kyle Hamilton and the 2 inside linebackers are your 4 underneath droppers. We're playing so much cover 3, it seems like recently, and different versions of it. This is not exactly my favorite version. I do like it, though, as a read. And so I'll kind of get into it a little bit. I don't want to destroy the flow of talking about Nate Wiggins. I like some of the stuff we did last year with the boundary side safety where we're reading the running back or the tight end, basically the number 2 receiver to the boundary and reacting to that, such that if he was to disappear, we're not exactly going to press downhill into this flat area. I think that's one of the things we're not doing as often and not doing as efficiently and as well this season, which is basically reacting to routes and helping out in different locations on the field depending on the release of number two, particularly to the boundary. Now, that's not the release that Gesicki gives here, since it is cover three by call. Darius Washington sees him go into the flats, burst downhill immediately. That's one of the things about Darius that's different from him with Eddie Jackson, at least right now. Throughout the entirety of their careers, Eddie Jackson's a superior player. Of course, he's got way more impact plays on film, but right now, Darius reacts quickly, he's decisive, and he is actually physically quicker in getting to the location on the field that he wants to get to. So this is going to be the DPI on Wiggins on the very next snap. Again, we're second possession. He didn't get on the field at all on the first possession, on the first drive for the Bengals when they scored to go up 7-0. Again, he's rotating plays at times. We obviously get a pass interference call, rightfully so. What I'm always interested in and what I was trained to look at for some of these things was guys' reaction to it. There is such an overreaction here with Ja'Marr Chase. And look, we could play them again this week and he could tear us up again. This reactions after the play aren't necessarily correlated with performance on the field. But what I'm suggesting to you is he doesn't like these things. He's used to free releases. That's what the NFL promotes nowadays because of the style of play and the rule set. I think we should look for opportunities to hit him in the mouth. Marlon Humphrey does it, and Chase bounces off of it later and still gets a 15-yard catch. Cool, he's that talented. He's going to be able to make plays. I think we've got to look for opportunities to hit him in the mouth and do that repeatedly throughout the course of the game. Give ourselves a better chance to slow the guy down. Is it going to stop him? No, it's not. But when guys gesticulate like that after a normal pass interference, that usually gives me and the coaches I was exposed to in my career a little bit of an indication like, hey, let's be physical with the guy, see if we can wear him down a little bit mentally. So still second possession. The Bengals have moved the ball downfield. They are, like I said, up 7-0 at this point. This is a 2nd and 3. Incomplete pass to Iosivas against Wiggins down here on the bottom right. He does end up getting a little bit, there's like an extra couple of steps to gather himself at the top of this route. And he's got better athleticism than this, if you ask me. But Iosivas, and this is what bothers me a little bit about this, because he's hanging out, we called it, slow playing it, whatever phrase you as a coach use. He's not trying to stay on top of this route too much. Over to the other side, Brandon Stevens is far more threatened by that vertical, so he's on top of it. I think Wiggins can play this a whole lot better. It does go down as an incompletion. Burrow's throwing it quickly to get the ball out. Iosivas coming back to it. He's able to get his feet in the ground, and Wiggins is unable to get his cleats and toes into the ground and change direction quickly enough to really play a factor in that. He didn't have a role in that ball being incomplete at all. First quarter, still, this is a 4th and 3. Wiggins is initially lined up here on the outside receiver, but the Bengals are going to motion across. So watch him tell Marlon Humphrey what they're going to do. Little hand signal above his head. So they switch. Wiggins is going to take Burton. One of the situations in the game where I think Burrow's decision-making should be questioned a little bit in terms of where he goes with the football. Again, it's Wiggins against Burton. The Bengals love this right here. This little stack, twins to one side. There's got to be something that we can do when Ja'Marr Chase is part of that stack and he's the guy on the line of scrimmage such that we can get hands on him in some manner. I don't know what the exact options would be for the Ravens when the outside linebacker cannot be a part of that solution, meaning Chase's alignment is far enough away from the tackle such that he can't be jammed by an outside linebacker without giving it away. But I think there is something to be said about our outside linebackers helping out on inside breaking routes like this one. So what I mean is Van Noy or whoever our OLB is peeling out and looking to decapitate an in-breaking receiver, particularly one as special as Ja'Marr Chase. So this is Burton and his little juke setup. I don't think it's very effective. He did use it a couple of times in the game. And I think Wiggins is hanging out. Again, you'll hear me say that a couple of times. I think he's hanging out on the downfield shoulder because he knows it's a 4th and 3. I think he's looking for something that's thrown back here. And in this case, it ends up being the same vertical route. Look, the ball's already out. from Burrow. We do have, I think it's Matabike trying to elevate and get in the way, get in the throwing window of Burrow. I don't think this is a bad rap. I do recognize that Burton is further downfield than Wiggins is. I think that's partially because of the situation. Again, we would call it hanging out on that downfield shoulder, trying to deal with perhaps a fade out, a go out, or come back to the sideline so they could pick up the first down. Skipping the third possession because, again, he was not on the field there. We're now into the fourth possession. It's a 7-7 tie. This is a 3rd and 7. He's up top, matched up against Jamar Chase. It ends up being a scramble for, I believe, 6 yards by Burrow. He doesn't get it. It's a 3rd and 7. They convert on the very next play. Remember, the tight end sneak. Watch the releases of the receivers. We're not doing anything to impede these guys at all. Because we do so much mug looks here, we're not in position to impede anything and essentially take out a receiver, disrupt their route such that wherever Burrow looks for the read, and he is, in fact, looking to the trip side, it's not like he only looks to the trip side. When you got Jamar Chase backside, we're doing a great job here, dropping Tavius Robinson out into the flats to help with that slant. Conceptually, my apologies, it's not Tavius Robinson. It's Kyle Hamilton, who looked like he was going to blitz, and then he drops into the slant window. So basically, Wiggins knows he has some help here on the inside with Kyle Hamilton. Nothing really materializes in that manner. It's a later in-breaking route by Chase, who tries to shoulder Wiggins a little bit at the top of the route once Burrow scrambles to create some space. He gets 6 yards. Like I said, they converted it on the very next play. Still fourth possession. This is after converting that 4th and 1. This is a 3rd and 15. One of my favorite coverages that I saw from the game for the Ravens. It's a very simple version of cover 3 on 3rd and 15. And I think we are trying to bait Joe Burrow here into throwing it to the tight end over the middle. I believe it's Eddie Jackson. This is Matabike's forced fumble, obviously over near the sideline. Very violent finish from him. So Gesicki is certainly open here. I think what we're doing is we're dropping this safety down to the hash, pushing Simpson, the inside linebacker, to the flats, and then dropping Hamilton down and letting Roquan stay on the flats. So we end up with a 4 under umbrella in a cover 3 on 3rd and 15. We have so much depth because it's a long yardage to gain in terms of getting the first down. So here's the 4 underneath droppers. Hamilton, Roquan, Eddie Jackson, and then Trenton Simpson, who's pushed out in the flats. It's okay with me if you disagree and you say, Coach, that's not a cover 3 because of the way they played it. I call it a cover 3 because of how we got to it. And I think it's interesting, because of how we got to it. Hamilton dropping to the flats, Eddie Jackson dropping here. I'd like to see our Darius be this guy, and we're looking for this route coming across the middle of the field. I think we're trying to get him to throw that football and then break on it with Eddie Jackson right here. Up to the top side, our guy that we're talking about, Nate Wiggins, has a simple job here. Cover 3, possible divider technique if you get 2 verticals. Again, free releases, but 3rd and 15, I think it's appropriate. Let him catch the ball in front, and then we make the tackle to get a stop. In this case, Matabike handles it himself. Skipping forward here, he didn't play on the 5th possession. Again, so out, off the field, 1st, 3rd, and 5th possession, played the 2nd and the 4th. We're into the 3rd quarter now, and he's still going to be left outside corner with Brandon Stevens to the right, and then Humphrey playing the nickel against 11 personnel. This is a 3rd and 6. And I don't like this because we're dropping Van Noy out, but we're not touching 87 at all. And it doesn't really relate to Nate Wiggins, but I feel like I would be remiss if I don't mention these things to you guys. We know that it's pass because of who they have in the game. They don't have a running back on the field. Van Noy is assigned with dropping out, pushing out into the flats. Cool, fine. But he's got 87 literally right in front of him. We're blitzing Roquan. The pass strength is called to the field. So what I mean is, look at Trenton Simpson. He's opened in this direction. He's not moving in that direction. He's moving here. But he's opening in that direction. So his back is to the boundary side twins. The Bengals chewed us up with twins to the boundary. I think there's a lot to be said for it. We're not touching people. It's free releases. This is free yardage. Some of you listening could make this throw. I could make this throw if it's that open, if I knew it was going to be that open, and we just don't touch the guy. Like, what are we doing? Why aren't we impeding receivers at all when our inside linebacker is opening in the other direction, back turned to it? I'm not saying that Trenton Simpson's wrong here. I think Kyle Van Noy is, quote, wrong because of the way he plays it. He's being coached to do this. He's not being coached to touch people. This is not a Kyle Van Noy issue. This is a Ravens defense in 2024 issue because no one wants to get hands on guys at all. We have all these coverage schemes drawn up, and we have talented players who can execute them, but nobody wants to hit anybody in the mouth because they're not coached to do this shit during the week. Moving forward in the third quarter here, the Bengals are up 21-7. This will be Marlon Humphrey's forced fumble. A little bit of an adaptation, I think, here in the coverage on Chase at the top by Wiggins. So he has some variability in the things he's being asked to do and the things he can do. I think he's being told to play trail man here. Marlon forces the fumble that really changes the game. But let's watch Wiggins. I think Wiggins is allowing Chase to release to the outside and then trying to trail him while Ardarius is trying to get over the top. So essentially, we're going to allow Chase to, quote, beat us downfield, end up not hanging out. We're going to be on the underside of the route, and it'll work out like a double team functionally. It ends up being a run play for Chase Brown on a 2nd and 5. So you may not believe that that's what's happening. You may say, Coach, I think that Wiggins is just seeing the release by Chase, and or you may think he lost that badly on that little stutter release that wasn't even really 100% release. But nonetheless, he's being asked to do multiple things from a coverage standpoint, and we are checking into different coverages depending on where Chase is. Essentially, we're not going to play trail man over there if it's Iosivas or Yoshivas as the backside X. Hopefully, the way I explained that makes sense. So this is now later in the third quarter. I think about 4 minutes left in the third quarter. We've closed to 21-14 after Marlon's fumble, after Marlon forced the fumble. And again, we've got him on the field, but now 2 possessions in a row, 6th possession, and then the 7th. And I think we've got another version of cover 3 here to Chase, and Wiggins is playing man up to the top side, regardless of what you call it, Maryland, Louis, solo, whatever. So Stevens, cover 3, corner, Williams, cover 3, underneath droppers here, underneath dropper here. I think Ojabo's supposed to get a little bit more depth, but he's on the line of scrimmage, so it's hard for him to get that depth. He can't be at the depth that Roquan is that quickly because Roquan lined up there, which relates to the fact that Roquan is often lined up at the line of scrimmage and asked to defend the pass. The mug stuff, I feel like, has not been nearly as much of a return on our investment. Roquan is matching this route here. Wiggins, actually, Burrow did look there for a moment. Again, this is a 2nd and 3. Burrow looked there for a moment, and because he's on the top side, and it ends up being a vertical, Burrow said, okay, I don't think that's there at all. So he wasn't hanging out, halfway, and he certainly wasn't underside, trail man, essentially, or almost. This is what we need more of, even though Chase makes the play here. Chase, I think, gets 15 yards on the catch. Burrow escapes out of here. This gives us time as a pass rush to get there. It gives us opportunity by impeding Chase's route. He still catches the ball because the pass rush, in this case, doesn't, quote, work. Burrow's able to escape. I like the blitz by Trenton Simpson. We're just not able to finish the play. Third quarter, same drive. Chase Brown motioning from the boundary back into the backfield, and you can see that we check our coverage call to the top side. I think it's Ardarius making the check along with Marcus Williams. It's a 3rd and 2 mesh concept. It's going to work for the Bengals. We don't really collision at all. We get 2 drags here. Mesh concept. Wiggins is up top in man on Burton. Chase runs underneath, 17-yard gain. I mean, there's just no way for Roquan to keep up with him. Even if we smack him in the mouth, first of all, in this day and age, they might call it a penalty. I would say that's free money. So if we can get a hit on Jamar Chase, he's incredibly slippery and athletic. How difficult is it? If you put the ball in his hands 100 yards from the end zone and 11 average NFL defensive players, he may score. He's just extremely slippery. He's going to make people miss. So when we say free money, what I mean is we know the concept here. We know where he's going. I would be a fan of us stepping up and smacking him in the mouth and knocking him off his route, even if it means we get a penalty in doing so. We've got to do something different than what we've done so far. But up top, Wiggins, again, matched up against Burton. Little in-breaking route, staying with him. I think that's a good matchup for Wiggins, both of those guys being rookies. I'd like to see Wiggins in a little bit more man situations. Not that his zone coverage isn't any good, because here we have an opportunity. He's playing quarter, half. Later on in that same drive, we're still down, 21-14. I think we've got quarter, half here with Marlon pushing the flats. Oh, by the way, the only guy making contact or collisioning any receiver for the, I guess at this point, 10th game in a row, or games he didn't play in, maybe 8th or 9th, is Marlon Humphrey. Half field safety here. Wiggins in the flats. Marlon pushing the flats on the other side. Quarter, cover 6. I call it quarter, half. It's the same concept essentially. I don't like his reaction to the in cover 2 when we're down in the red zone sometimes. I'm talking about Wiggins. He even had trouble in one of his preseason reps in that situation. Not the touchdown that we gave up to the running back, by the way. I'm talking about a different snap. So we move to the fourth quarter here, 3rd and 16. And this is a great example of the type of athlete that we have here. Chase going over the middle. Burrow is disrupted by the pressure, by the blitz. I think it's Ardarius. Free rusher, unable to finish the sack, unfortunately for us. 3rd and 16. Chase is going to bring this route underneath. It's a great illustration, if you ask me, of the type of speed that he has and quickness. Is there an opportunity for Chase to catch the football? Sure, there is. But other lesser corners, lesser talented guys from an athletic standpoint wouldn't even be this connected to it. I'll give you the end zone angle, I believe, of this one. Off screen to our left is where Wiggins and Chase are located. We're dropping Simpson out, so the pass strength has been declared to this side, so you can see his back's turned to our left. The offense is right, dropping out Owe and Van Noy, but they're not identifying any routes nor sinking underneath of a slant at all. They're staring at the quarterback, even though, in my opinion, they're not a part of the rush component. I don't think this is Owe and Van Noy being on possible spy or add-on coaching those guys dropping out to do in this situation. Again, it's 3rd and 16, trying to force them to get rid of the ball quick. We got what we wanted. Ardarius just doesn't finish the sack. And yes, there is an opportunity to catch the football, but I think that's a pretty good challenge. And I understand that other people have different evaluations. Oh, he's still open, coach. You're making this sound better than it is. I think Wiggins to be matched up against Chase in some of these moments in this game looked pretty good. Fourth quarter now. Bengals are still up 21-20 because we missed the extra point. And this is where we get into some of these decisions that Burrow made. I talked about it in another film study video that I did, and it's fine if people have a different opinion of it. I think you need to get the first down. With the way our offense is rolling at this point, this is not a target of Wiggins. This is actually an example of Marcus Williams doing a great job of responding or reacting to the quarterback throwing the ball. So he's clearly locked onto the quarterback. No visual, no awareness of the route whatsoever. But he is breaking to the correct spot and gives us a great opportunity for an interception if the ball wasn't thrown as high as far down the field as it was. It's a 3rd and 2. I think Burrow is missing to this side intentionally. Wiggins is to the outside. Iosivas breaking inside right into the window where Van Noy is. So supports one another with the coverage. And we'll get to that here in a minute. So this is the very next play. 4th and 2. Wiggins down on the bottom side. This is after the incompletion, the deep pass to Chase. Fortunately, Joe Burrow doesn't see this and probably doesn't have time either. We've got a edge rusher getting into his line of sight. He targets Burton again on another deep concept against Brandon Stevens. I mean, we've got Wiggins on Gesicki in trail, and Jamar Chase is pretty much being guarded one-on-one by Eddie Jackson. I'm just not sure how that happens from a structural standpoint. I'm not sure how. Yes, the offense gets to line up last. We get to determine things down up to the top side, regardless of how we're supposed to play it. We're not doing anything at all. Like to recognize the talent that Jamar Chase has. So could play it any way you want. It's a half field call theoretically. When you play cover 4, yes, that's quote 4 deep. People call quarters cover 4. But other coaches call quarters read stuff. Our quarters call was reading 2. So it would be more synonymous with what other people would call to read. That was our quarters. So when people call things quarters, it just doesn't just mean this guy has 1/4 of the field. This guy deep. This guy has 1/4 of the field. Brandon Stevens has 1/4 of the field. And then since it's a 2-by-1 formation with 2 guys in the backfield, we would essentially be Louis, man, or solo on the backside. That's not what quarters always is. There's different half-field calls to tell you what to do based on the reaction of 2. We've got what looks like 2 verticals here, a vertical stem and a vertical stem. And so Brandon Stevens can't just play this like he's going to have deep help when he doesn't. Now, should Marcus Williams react differently? It depends on the half-field call. It depends on what the heck the half side. Wiggins is kind of just smoothly matching this route by Iosivas. Ends up being a huge touchdown that negates our 7-point lead. It's pretty disgusting. Late in the fourth quarter, about a minute 45 left. He's covering Burton to the bottom side. We are up 35-28 at this point. Again, you have that stacked twins look up to the top side with Chase involved. This is the catch that Marlon Humphrey gives up against Iosivas. So it's 4th and 10. Another example of an in-breaking route, and look at the angle that Wiggins takes. I love this angle, this off-coverage recognition of the down and distance. And so credit to him for this play. Marlon is competing. Iosivas catches it. What the hell are we defending here? I'm cool with this because that's Jamar Chase. What are we defending down here? Like, guys don't do this consistently on film, be this deep on a 4th and 10 with the game on the line, a minute and 40 left. They don't do that unless they're told to by the coaches. This is not Eddie Jackson independently saying, hey, I'm worried about Nate Wiggins giving up the ball snapped on 30, a 70-yard touchdown to Burton. Or, hey, I'm worried about Marlon Humphrey giving up a 70-yard touchdown to Iosivas, so I'm going to play 24 yards deep on a 4th and 10. This is where he's told to line up. I don't know what we're defending. And we're essentially playing, I think, almost 9 on 11 here because we're already playing 10 on 11 by dedicating 2 guys to Jamar Chase. Great. Co-signed. I think you would co-sign it too. But this, we're helping no one. We're helping nothing. We end up getting a quarterback hit as well, I think, by Travis Jones. It's a great play by Iosivas. Did he catch it? No, it doesn't look like he called it to me, but, hey, made it look like it. A great play by him. If it was our receiver, we'd be celebrating it even if the ball hit the ground and he didn't control it. This is the touchdown pass to Jamar Chase that I think we could play better here with Wiggins, but also notice the boundary side coverage. Simpson pushes to the boundary side, running back, release. We're playing cover 2 here. This needs to be a read. So this needs to be a read such that we lock on to Chase and essentially double team him if this is what we're going to play. And we did this last year. That's what doesn't make sense at all. This is not being instructed whatsoever. So if the running back was to release to this side, you could still play cover 2 over here with Simpson being on the hash, quote, even though the hash is 3, 4, 5 yards further to his right, the top left corner of our screen, with Wiggins being in the flat and with a, quote, half-field safety in Ardarius Washington, if you got this release by the running back. Since he pushes here and Simpson pushes with him, let's assume that Simpson's not wrong. What are we still playing cover 2 for? Just lock on to the guy. Everything else is handled. Everything else is handled up here. They've max pro'd it. Someone's going to have to deal with this tight end chipping out. This is not coordinated well. It's not a great angle by Ardarius Washington. It's also not a nice job, if you ask me, of Wiggins recognizing that someone is on the running back. I need to get depth and help out with this guy who is their best player. They're done in practice, but it doesn't happen in the game. That is not the way it works. If you execute it in practice at a 70% efficiency, you will probably execute it in the game at 70% efficiency or below. You're not suddenly executing it at 90% accuracy in practice and then 70% accuracy in the game. You're going to be closer to that number. I'm not saying it's going to be precise or exact because we're playing against NFL starters, but we're not coordinated into the boundary from a coverage standpoint consistently, and teams are taking advantage of it. I think the Bengals recognized it, and that's why Joe Burrow and those guys went over there so much. Let me rewind this a little bit to make sure my point is clear. Ball's on the right hash. This is the boundary. This is the short side of the field. We're having trouble over here. We're having trouble with what coverage we're in, and this looks to me like these two guys are in two different coverages. Simpson is matching him man. If we're going to play two-man, then we should be in a more man relationship, and we're not. That's too easy for that type of space. I think that other NFL teams are looking at us and saying, let's go to the boundary. When the ball was on the right hash, that would mean attacking Marlon Humphrey or Nate Wiggins. And when the ball was on the left hash, that would mean attacking Brandon Stevens, who is our right side corner. And then finally, the two-point conversion attempt. I don't know what the decision-making is here. The decision process is for the Bengals. As poor as we were in that moment to go, I think they are here. Burrow does get hit, don't get me wrong, in trying to make the throw. It's a great job by Ardarius collisioning and making contact. One guy out of those three inside that circle is punking out, and two guys are competing and playing football. You figure it out. I love the contact that Ardarius made, that Marlon Humphrey made. If we get to the point where those things are going to be called every single time, particularly when a guy flops, Mike Gesicki, then we're really not watching football at that point. I think Nate Wiggins played quite well. I think he's an outlier compared to the structure of the rest of our defense at times. Him and Marlon Humphrey, from a coverage standpoint, have been our better guys. Marlon, for a quarter and a half, maybe 2 quarters, didn't look great in coverage in this game, in my opinion. He did force the fumble in the third quarter that changed the game, changed the tone of the game. So that offsets all of that, obviously, at least for me. You guys have to let me know if I belabored the point too much about some of our coverage problems as I understand them. There's people who are way smarter than me, way better football coaches with more experience, who probably can explain it to you in a more succinct way. So forgive me if this video went on long. I do think Nate Wiggins is playing really well. I would like to see us have Wiggins as when the ball is on the left hash for the offense, and Brandon Stevens is a boundary side corner, I would like to see Marlon Humphrey over there more often. Do I mean that every time the ball was on the left hash, we should take Brandon Stevens out and sub Marlon Humphrey on? No, that's not what I mean. But I'd like to see us get into some of that so we're mixing and matching what offensive coordinators have to navigate or negotiate, figure out, essentially, when they're making their play call as we're subbing in. And I think that's one of the reasons why it's really great to have Arthur Millette play nickel some, Marlon Humphrey play nickel some, Kyle Hamilton play nickel some, because we're then giving the offensive staff, for our opponent, more to think about, the quarterback more to process. And in my opinion, keeping Brandon Stevens as the right side corner 99% of the time, while rotating to some degree Nate Wiggins and Marlon Humphrey over there to the left outside corner, is a mistake. We've got 3 guys who are competent. Brandon Stevens has been targeted consistently. And then another way to look at it is Marlon Humphrey has had a fantastic 2024, in my opinion. Why not put him and Wiggins on the field and say, if you're going to throw the ball at these guys, you're going to have to throw at 2 guys who can go get the football. Brandon Stevens did have a amazing play that unfortunately didn't go down as an interception against the Bengals earlier in the game that would kind of go against that statement, that sentiment. But in any case, you guys let me know what you think of the plays that I chose here to illustrate the quality of Nate Wiggins' play. I probably should have titled this Ravens Coverage Analysis to a certain degree. Forgive me if I went on too much about some of the things that I perceive as a mistake. If you think other Ravens fans would enjoy this film study video of our first-round rookie corner competing against Jamar Chase and the Bengals passing attack that's been extremely successful in 2024, then please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach.